So let's actually add that first-person character controller into the game and create our first interactive video game. So I'm just going to clean this up. I'm just going to select a few of these things and right-click, delete. I'm going to go ahead and right-click, delete the main camera as well. We really should only have one camera in a scene whenever we're working with a first-person character controller. I'm going to create a floor for my character to start with, so I'm just going to make a cube, hit R to scale my cube, and I'll make a bit of a floor area like that. And now I'm going to, in my assets window, go find my character controller. So there's a lot of ways to do this. I'm going to show you the long way first and then the short way. So I can click on assets and I'll see all of my different folders in here. So I have scenes, that's the scene that we're using, which we're using sample scene right now. And then standard assets. So I'm going to click into that. Within that folder I have characters. Within that folder I have first person characters. And then I'm going to go to prefabs, and then finally the FPS controller is what I'm going to be using. That's pretty long. I'll show you a much faster way to do that. So I'm just on assets, and I can just search FPS, and look at that, it pops it up immediately. It's really good at searching very, very quickly. Alternatively, in the favorites menu, that was a prefab, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. I can click on all prefabs and find it that way. So I'm just going to click back on my assets and just search for FPS controller. So I have FPS controller, and I'm going to drag it into my scene. So I'm just clicking and dragging from the asset project window into my scene, and I'm going to release. And what's happened is it's put my character controller in the scene. I'm not going to click anything, I'm just going to hit W and just move that character controller up a little bit so he's not quite in the ground. It's sort of hard to see. I'll turn down my lights a little bit. You don't need to do this on yours. I'm just going to lower the intensity so I can see my character a little bit better in the recording. So he's got this kind of green outline, this green wireframe, and that's showing the collider, which is how we move around a surface. Then there's a camera part, there's a little sound part, there's also like the direction that the camera's facing. So I'm just having it so that it's over my floor surface. I'll hit play and let's see what happens. It's going to drop my character in, and I can use my mouse to look around. I can use W to move forward, or I can use the forward arrow key. Either one's fine. S to move backwards, A to move to the left, D to move to the right. And of course those respective arrow keys work as well, so I can run around. If I hold down Shift, I will run faster. If I hit spacebar, I'll jump. And now you're probably wondering, well, how do I actually get out of this play mode? Because my cursor's gone away. Command P on Mac or Control P on Windows will remove us from play mode. So we can see what's happened is it's added the FPS controller over here, so the first person perspective controller over here. And it looks a little bit different than our other objects because it has this blue icon on it, and the name itself is in blue. What that means is that this is a prefab or a prefabrication. Essentially, a prefab you can think of as an asset that has a bunch of content that's saved physically on our hard drive. It's saved in the assets folder. The rest of these assets, like the cube and the directional light, these were just made by Unity. I don't have them saved anywhere right now. So if I was to lose my project, I couldn't recover those. This FPS controller, however, is physically saved on my hard drive in an assets folder that I could pull up on my computer. For example, if I go to Finder and I go to my project that we're currently in, and I go to the assets folder, standard assets, characters, first person character, I can find my FPS controller.prefab file. So prefab, simply put, is just like a grouping of settings and objects and things like that. So the FPS controller is just like that game object that we were using before in a previous video. I can twirl down, and it has two components. It's got the FPS controller and the first person character. First person character includes the audio listener, or the ears, and the camera, so the eyes and the ears. And the FPS controller is like our body. This includes how fast we run, how we walk. Go ahead and look through this and play with some of these settings and see what happens whenever you mess with things like walk speed or run speed.